All right, so this semester I'll be taking you through mobile application development. Um, we'll be looking at a couple of things. Today will be more of an introductory class, so I don't intend for us to stay online for long. Um, and before we start, I want to know um, your whether you have any question or anything you want us to talk about from last semester. For me, I have a couple of things to say, but I'll reserve it for our face-to-face meetings, our face-to-face meeting. But if you have anything to say before we start, you can raise your hand and talk about it if you have any suggestions regarding the class and some of the things you're expecting this semester. You can raise your hands and put that across before we start. Any expectations, any suggestions? Maybe there was something you're expecting us to do last semester, which we couldn't do. Want to suggest how we can go about it? You can raise your hand and do so. Okay, Shako. Is this Shako Farouk?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about the time we'll be reporting to campus. You see, some
Okay,
of us, we do our national service at a very far place. Me, for instance, I'm coming from Tema, and the time we'll be reporting to school or campus for this particular course, I think, or I'm suggesting, yeah, if it can be extended or maybe moved to the next period, that will be maybe around 7. Because coming from Tema to campus, I don't think it can be favorable to some of us.
all right, okay.
If
Is that
something,
all?
yes, please. If something can be
Oh,
done about it, we'll be grateful.
okay. All right. Any other suggestion or comment? Yes, Philip.
Hello.
Yes, Philip. We can hear you.
Yes. Good evening to everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
My suggestion, or I don't know if it's a problem or so, but it has to do with our number.
Yeah, good evening.
Our number is too high. Mostly, we find ourselves congested in the class that even when the lecturer is teaching, we can't hear what he's saying.
Good
I
evening.
don't know
Okay.
if something could be done about that.
Okay. All right. So that's all noted. Any other? Let me take the last one. Then we can address it quickly and start with the class. Any other? All right. So if there's no more suggestion or expectation, let me start with Shako's one. So with respect to the time, Shako, what time do you have on your timetable? Can you
Five, five,
confirm the time?
Okay.
5 to what time?
So let me kindly confirm.
Okay. Because previous sessions, I know the time is from 4 to 7. Previously, I know it's from 4 to 7. But it's this conversation with your class rep this evening. I'm told it's from 5 to 8. But I tried to reach the lab technicians to confirm that, however, they're still working on the timetable. They've not finalized it yet. So for now, we will still work with the 5. Okay.
Okay, so
that is the other thing has to do with the fact that I also have a 7 p.m. class with the HND level 200s at 7 p.m. Yes, I have a class with them at 7 p.m. Fridays as well. So I don't know how that can be done, but maybe I'll discuss with them to see if they also don't have a class from 5. If they don't have a class at 5 p.m., then I can push them to the 5 p.m. and then we will start our class from 7 p.m. Okay,
Please, good evening.
yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I think that's a very great idea, and we would like to.
Hello, sir. Good evening.
Please, those of you coming in, unmuting your mic and speaking, if you have any suggestion, I was clear on that. You raise your hand. Okay, so if someone is speaking, don't just come in and then interrupt the submission. So Kelvin and Priscilla, if you have any suggestion, just raise your hand. Then I'll call you in so that you speak. Okay. All right, so like I was saying, I have to meet them. I'll be meeting them this evening right after my session with you and see if they would also want, probably they would want to come a bit earlier. That's if they are free, then we can do that. And secondly, on okay, Priscilla.
Sir, please, good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Sir, please, I'm suggesting that if we are to start the class at 7, that means those of us who stay far away from campus will be getting home very late. Because getting church around 9 p.m. is very hectic. It is very dangerous after all.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Shakwa would have to skip work on Fridays.
All right. So, okay, thank you. So we'll put all that into consideration and then see how best we can work around it. Yeah. Now, that brings us to Philip's issue about the class size. At the moment, I think at least from last semester, we've been able to tell the actual class size.
This suggestion.
Okay. Who is this Kelvin Kwashi? Who is Kelvin Kwashi? Please, the next time you unmute your mic and interrupt the session. I would have to take you out of the class. Suspend you for a period.
The suggestion is very good.
I'll suspend you for a period. Please. If you have anything to say, just unmute yourself and then speak. All right. Raise your hand. I'll call you. Then you unmute yourself and then you speak. Okay. All right. So yes, back to Philip's question on the class size. And like I was saying, this class size, we've been able to determine your total number, which is around 200, and I think it's a little above 200. Okay, so what I intend to do is to come up with two groups. Okay, so now that we know the class size, I'll do the proper division and send that to your class rep to share with you. So we are canceling the divisions we did from last semester because as at that time we didn't know the actual class size. Even the last day of lectures, people were still coming on registry. So now that I know the actual class size, I'll do a division. Hopefully by next week, you know whether you are in the A or the B class. And then depending on the time slots that we are given from the lab timetable, if it's 2 hours, we'll use 2 hours. We'll use 1 hour for one class and another 1 hour for the other class. Okay, we are going to maximize that 1 hour. If it is 3 hours, we'll do it 1 hour, 30 minutes for each class. Okay, so I hope, Philip, question has been addressed. Philip.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, you're welcome. All right, so that also brings me to the class grouping. Okay, I noticed from marking your scripts, there were a lot of issues with the groupings. Okay, so I'm going to do a new grouping purposely for my course. Okay, I don't know if there are other lecturers know that, but I'm going to do a new grouping for this course. And the groups will be based on your performance in the exams. Okay, so there'll be new groupings which I'll share with you based on the performance, your performance in last semester's exams. Okay, so whichever group you are in from last semester in my course, okay, that group has also been cancelled, and there'll be a new grouping for this semester. So kindly take note of that. Okay. All right, so let me quickly jump into the course outline so that we look at what to expect this semester. Please, a quick one too. Okay, maybe I'll talk about it in the course outline. Okay. All right, so this semester we are looking at mobile application development course code for BCS 410. Okay, that's the course code BCS 410. Some of you don't even know your course code or even the course title. All you know is that you are attending the class. I'll not be surprised by the middle of the semester if I ask people what is the course title, they'll tell me Flutter. Okay, they'll tell me Flutter because that was the framework, or that will be the framework we use. But please, the course title is Mobile Application Development. Mobile Application Development. So this is my name. Those of you who came late don't know me. This is my name. Now, I'll be using emails a lot. Okay. Please if you have any concern or any issue, kindly forward it to my email. Okay. The calls are beginning to be annoying. So I'll leave the calls to your class reps to do that. Okay, but if you have any concern, for instance, you'll not be able to make it to class or any other thing, just push that to my email and that will be acknowledged. Okay. So if you can't make it to class, if you have any issue, please don't call me. Don't WhatsApp me and send me plenty messages and pictures. Send to my email. Okay. Or if you are on campus, mostly on Tuesdays and Fridays, I'm on campus. You can see me and discuss that with me. But even after that, if it has to be a permission of any form, send an email so that there will be a record of the fact that you asked permission. All right. So the course description. This course will introduce you to cross-platform application development using Flutter. We are going to, the Flutter is a Google's open source framework, which we are going to use. You learn how to build applications which are appealing for iOS platforms and also Android platforms. And then we will look at that's programming. Okay, because if you are going to use Flutter, one of the base programming language you should be able to use is that programming language. Okay, and learning that is not a difficult, or that is not a difficult language to learn. It is just like the use of Java. Okay, so it's going to follow some of the programming constructs like Java, like we saw in Java. It will cover things like Flutter widgets, state management, API integration, Firebase, backend services, and then application development. And by the end of this course, you'll be required to develop a fully functional mobile application that will be deployed on either the Android platform, the Play Store, Apple Store. Okay, so that's the course description. For the objective, to understand, I think I left one thing out, I'll add that to it. So the first objective is to understand the difference between user interface and user experience design, and using what we call storytelling, sketching, and wireframing. Then the next one has to do with understanding the fundamentals of Flutter, that's understanding the fundamentals of Flutter and that. And then the next concept we will look at, or the next objective has to look at you being able to design and build cross-platform application with the use of Flutter. And then you explore the state management, APIs, and then Firebase integration. We also look at the local, integrating of a local storage as well. And then finally, should be able to deploy, develop and deploy a functional Flutter application. Okay. So Let's go through the course content. So week 1 being today, you look at the introduction, course introduction. Course introduction, user experience, and UI design. Course introduction, which we are doing at the moment, user experience and UI design. We look at storytelling, sketching, and wireframing. I'll touch on it briefly today. Then introduction to the cross-platform mobile application. What cross-platform mobile application is, the development, cross-platform mobile application development. And then we look at IDE that we are going to use and how to set it up, okay, for the purpose of whatever we are going to do. We look at how to set it up. And then we'll move straight into introduction to that, and then the Flutter framework. Okay, so within that programming language, we'll look at the various concepts when it comes to programming, okay, with respect to that. So we look at the data types, the inputs and outputs. We look at functions, how to write functions in that. We look at the control structures, how to write control structures, if-else statements, the loops, and so on. Okay. And then we look at the object-oriented programming concept when it comes to that program. Okay. And like I said, it's almost similar to Java. Okay, so with just one period, I can touch on all these concepts or all these syntax regarding that, because these are things or concepts that you should already know, okay, from your HND level. Programming concepts you should already know. Okay, so I'll just go through the syntax with you. So if we say data type, how do we declare? We talk about if-else statement. What's the syntax in that for doing the if-else, functions, loops, and so on. And after that, we look at Flutter basics. Basics, what are widgets? We'll talk about things like the stateful and stateless management when it comes to Flutter, okay, and see how we can write a simple Flutter code as well. Simple Flutter code as well. Now, then the following week, we will move straight to navigation and layouts. Navigation and layouts, Flutter applications. How to introduce your layouts in your Flutter applications. We'll talk about that. The various layouts in Flutter applications. So whether it's a grid view, it's a list view, it's going to be a stack. Okay, stack meaning that one component or one element is on the other. Okay, and then navigation. So when we talk about navigation, how do you navigate? What are the routes? How do you pass data between screens and so on? So we'll try all that. We'll try out some examples on that. Practically, to start with, we'll look at a login screen and a home screen. How do we do those navigations? Then we'll move to state management basic. Now, this is a key concept we need to appreciate when it comes to developing application with Flutter. Okay, so how to manage the local states and the use of the provider package. We'll look at that. Then we'll also look at the advanced UI design. Okay, so advanced UI design with respect to the widgets and its usability, the font colors, animation, gestures. Okay, we'll look at that. And then we'll look at working with API. So working with API, the use of the HTTP requests package and how to pass JSON data into your application. This is similar to what we did last semester. Probably we'll be using two main APIs that we'll be considering is still the weather API, and then also the open API when it comes to maps, okay, route and navigation, okay, like the way the Google map works. We look at it. And then mid-semester break, we have mid-semester exams, and then we move back into action with the last topic the last topic in the course, which has to do with Firebase integration and also working with local data. So Firebase integration, we look at introduction to Firebase. How do you do authentication? How do you come up with your cloud storage? Setting up the Firebase for your Flutter projects. Okay, so we look at basically how to authenticate maybe email, password, okay, like in your signing in. Then with the local data, we are looking at look at how you can work offline. So if you have to cache data for offline use, caching of data for offline use, how do we do that? We'll discuss that also here. And then finally, we'll look at the testing, debugging, and also publishing of your application. Okay, so I will publish it on how to publish it on Play Store and also how to publish it on Apple Store. Okay, first we look at the app signing and then building the APK. Okay, so once you do the app signing, build the APK, then you can now publish it on the Google Play Store, Apple App Store. So basically, that is what we are going to look at this semester. I want to believe and trust God that we complete everything we have here. The main objective of this course is that you are able to develop fully functional mobile application. That's the objective for everyone, okay? Not just a few of us, or not just selected members or selected member of the class. Is for all of us. Please, I hope you are all with me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I want to reiterate this.
Yes,
It's
sir.
not for just a few people, it's for the entire class. It's for the entire class. So not just a few people. So tell yourself that at the end of this course, you should be able to build at least a simple, how do we call it?
Mobile application.
Mobile application. Because looking at last semester, the section C question of your exams, what some of you were writing for me, it didn't go down well at all. So as much as possible, we don't want to have a repeat of that this semester. Like I said, it's something we'll discuss in class, so I don't want to spend time on it. I want us to discuss it when we meet face to face, so that I can see people's face, some of the things people wrote, and then maybe understand why they wrote some of the things they wrote. But sometimes when you mark the script, the person is not there, so you can't tell what is behind what the person is saying, is writing. So we will discuss that when we meet face to face. But that's what I'm just trying to say, that just make it a point that at the end of this class, at least you can build a simple application and publish it on Play Store. Okay, simple application. I keep telling my students, academic courses are different from how do we call it, professional courses. With the professional programs, you are given maybe 6 months full training on mobile application development. At the end, you are being certified, or you are being certified as mobile application developer. Okay, at the academic calendar, we are limited by time and also venue and other limitation. Okay, so we'll try our best to complete whatever we have to do, but it's also, you also have to play your part to go through the. You also have to play your part, okay, to learn things on your own. Okay. All right. So Masaudi, your hand is up. Fatih, your hand is up. You have a question.
Yes, you said, good
Yeah.
evening.
Good evening.
Please, I wanted to ask, this semester, are we getting like slides or handouts?
This semester we are doing slides. We are doing slides.
Please, my suggestion is for the slides to be sent earlier so that we can go through them. And in case we meet in class, we are familiar with certain things and mix conversation and like the class. Okay. So sometimes we come to class and after we send the slides or something. And you just be there, you don't even know what's going.
Okay. I prefer sending my slides after the class. I prefer sending my slides after the class. So in that case, if you want to read before coming, okay, you have the course outline. Okay, that gives you a fair idea of what topic you are going to look at, and then you can read ahead. Okay, so I would prefer to give you the slide after the lecture or immediately after the class rather than before the class. And like I always say, my slides are more skeletal. Yeah, they are more skeletal. So if you don't come to the class and you think you just depend on the slides, you might not get fully everything from the slide. As and when there are some documents I have to share, maybe some code that I have to share, I'll make that available. Okay. All right. So the course delivery will be in person and online. I'm told we'll be meeting
thank you.
online. Yeah, you're welcome, Fatih. I'm told we'll be meeting online for the first 2 weeks. I pray that doesn't change. I pray, yes, that doesn't change so that we know that by week 3 we are meeting face to face. Okay. There'll be practical demonstrations where we'll try out some codes in class. And then there'll also be group projects, like I mentioned, and individual assignments and so on. Mode of assessment, there'll be assignment, practical projects. And also attendance. Okay, so those of you who have not typed your name and index number in the chat, please do so because attendance will be taken for each class. Okay, we are, I think, about 227 people or 26 participants are on, but the name or the chat is showing about 90 something. So if you've not done so, please do so immediately. We'll be having mid-semester exams, which will be 20, making our 40%. And then our written or end of sem exams, which will be both written and practical. Okay, so follow similar formats like that of last semester. Okay. Now, this sem we will use the LMS more. This semester we'll be using more of the LMS. Okay, so if it has to do with submitting files that are large enough, we use the Google Classroom. Okay, so we use the LMS, so there'll be quizzes on the LMS as and when, and then we'll use the Google Classroom if we have to submit documents that are large or large files or group projects. We'll use the Google Classroom for those submissions. Okay, and you have some reading lists here, which I'll be using for most of the slides and most of our practicals. Most of the slides and most of our practicals. Okay, so you can go online and get them, have them downloaded, and follow. Use them to follow whatever we are discussing in the class. All right. Any question before we move to our first topic?
No, sir, we are okay.
All right. So in the absence of any question, let me quickly go through our first topic. Like I said, today is week 1, and it's more of introduction. Okay, at the same time, we want to look at this topic. Okay, someone would say we are coming to learn mobile applications. Why are we doing UI and UX? Okay, now user interface design or user experience, okay, is very key when it comes to mobile application development. In fact, for every development, okay, whether real estate, whether they are building a tool to perform something, there's always a prototype or what we will say a mock-up, okay, for people to see and appreciate what the final outcome of that particular tool or that particular building would look like. Okay, when going into the field of construction, you see that they have, they'll come up with some architectural drawing, they'll come up with a plan of the building, come up with a prototype. They are constructing a bridge or something. You want to see how the final work will look like by looking at the prototype, okay, that is available. Okay, now these are all things that are important when it comes to development in every, in any field, okay? So as application developers, in this context, mobile application development, we also need to appreciate some of these things in our field, okay? And with this understanding, it will guide us in developing applications that will gain the user's interest, okay, in terms of the visual look and the flow, okay, that is going to, the user is going to experience when it comes to using your application, okay. So before we start with, let me ask a few questions. So I believe we've all heard this word, user interface and user experience, UX and UI. Okay, so if we say UI, who can tell us what is UI? User interface, what is it? Anyone? You can raise your hand. UI. Yes, Farouk.
Yes. So basically, user interface is how you interact with a device software.
Okay. So how you interact with a device.
Software
say
or
a
how
device. Okay.
yeah, how to navigate around a device.
Okay. Any other? Any other? Let's take one more. Let's take one more.
Yes, sir. Hello.
Yes, Philip.
So a UI is it's a medium in between which a user is able to interact with a computer component or computer, yeah, just well, let's say computer components, either being a computer itself or a hardware.
Okay. All right. I saw another hand up. Belinda. Let's get a female touch to it.
Okay, so good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So, to my understanding, user interface is basically how the user interacts with the computer. Say where icons are placed, where a user would be able to input text. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. These are all good submissions. What about UX? UX, user experience. Anyone? User experience.
Can I
Can
talk?
raise your hand. You can raise your hand. And please rename yourself. We don't want to know the phone you are using, whether it's Samsung or it's iPhone. Rename yourself so that we can address you by your name.
Can I talk?
So when I'm saying rename yourself, you are here saying, can I talk? Please rename yourself, the person using the Samsung name. Yes, Joshua. Joshua Dako, you can flow.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So with the user experience, it is the how after the person interacts with it, the experience that the person is going to get. Is the software easy to use? Does it satisfy the person's need? What is the feedback that the person gets from that using that software or that computer system? That is the user experience.
Okay. Charles. Hello, Charles. Charles, we can't hear you. Yes.
Hello.
Yes, Charles, we can hear you now. Go ahead. Okay, if Charles is not ready, let's listen to Mauni. Philip, you've already responded to a question, so let me take that of others. So Mauli.
Okay, the user experience is refers to the feeling or the satisfaction a user feels or has when or interacting with a system.
Okay, so the satisfaction. Okay. Let me take the last one, Eric Mensah.
Good evening.
Yes, good evening.
Is this the overall experience a person has when interacting with a computer?
When you say overall experience, can you break it down? From what you've said, you've not described what user experience is. You've used the same word again. So when you say overall, can you break it down? All right. So Eric, I guess he's still reading to give us more response. So let's go on. Okay, so like I said earlier, all the response you've given, it's valid. Okay, so user experience, user interface design, these are key things you need to know when you are developing an application. Okay, now, user interface basically refers to the visuals, okay, or the elements that we interact with when it comes to, in this context, mobile application. Okay, so like Belinda mentioned, the buttons, the text area, the icons, the layouts, typography, colors you use, animation, gestures, and so on. These are all based on user interface design. Okay, so mainly it focuses on the look and feel of the app. Okay, and how it's appealing to the user. How it's appealing to the user. There are some applications that people build which are not appealing at all. Sometimes you don't know where they got the idea from. Okay, some people also build application and they use colors that do not even match any concept of the application. Okay, so user interface design has to do with the visuals and the interactive elements of your mobile application. So, for instance, examples have been given here. Gradient background, okay, with rounded corner cards, customized animated toggle switches, okay, and so on. These are all UI elements. Okay, so the type of buttons you use, the icons. Then the user experience comprises of the experience, the overall experience the user gets from using the application. So when we say this overall experience, we are looking at things to do with accessibility, usability of the app, user experience also in terms of efficiency and then satisfaction. Okay, so you want to tell whether the user is satisfied with the functionality of the app. Okay, so mostly the user experience has to do with the functionality and usability. Okay, it focuses on how the app feels to use. Is it easy to navigate? Does it meet the user's needs? How does the user, how the user flows or navigates? How is the architecture of the application like? Okay, so those are the key things to look out for when you are talking about the user experience. So in terms of user experience, some of the things to consider is that is the application reducing the number of steps to complete a purchase. If I want to purchase an item, an e-commerce application, okay, do I have to go through so many steps? Or how many steps do I have to go through? I see my item, I add to cart, I go into the payment platform, add my credentials, if I have to pay by mobile money or pay by Visa, add the various details, and then get my make deductions made from the account, and then I make payment and have my product. Okay, so looking at that steps, number of steps to make payment, does it take long? Does it frustrate the user? So you are considering all that. Okay, where you place your search bar. Okay, is it easy for the user to find? Okay, so these are all things you consider when you are looking at the user experience. Okay, things you need to consider when you are working with user experience. Okay, so some key differences. Some key differences. So we have the user interface focuses on the design, visual design, and interactive elements. The UX focuses on the user's journey and satisfaction. Okay, so the functionality and usability as well. In terms of scope, the UI is specific to screens and buttons and icons. Okay, but the UX has broad, the scope is broad. It covers usability, flow, and emotions in terms of satisfaction. Then the goal of the UI is to create an aesthetically pleasing interface, whereas the UX ensures a seamless and intuitive and enjoyable experience. Some of the tools you can use in UI design, we have Figma, we have Sketch, we have Adobe XD. User experience, we do what we call wireframing. These same tools that have been mentioned with the UI can also be used to do what we call the wireframing when it comes to the user experience. Other ways is to use user testing. So you come up with a prototype for the user to test and give you feedback on whether the application, whether your to give you feedback. Okay, so there can be some form of questionnaire for the user, okay, to respond to. And then there can also be some form of analytics, okay, that can be done to gauge the experience, okay, or the user satisfaction. Okay, and if you've noticed, these are some of the things we do in our project work, especially those of you who completed ATU. You realize that usually in your chapter 3, where you do the methodology and you come up with questionnaire, there are questions you ask on user satisfaction regarding the application. Okay, these are all things that builds up the user experience. Okay, that gives you how the application has to be developed. Okay, then we have designing of buttons, style, user flow, conducting usability tests, and so on. So why is UX and UI design important? It enhances satisfaction and engagement. It increases business success and revenue. It saves time and development costs, improves accessibility and inclusivity, keeps you competitive in the job market, and encourage human-centered problem solving. All right, so let's look at these three elements quickly when it comes to UX and UI design. We'll talk about them quickly because I have another class at 7:30. So, all right, so what is storytelling? Okay, now for every application you develop, okay, there's always a story behind it. For every application you develop, there's always a story behind it. Okay, now these are things that, like I say, most of the people in industry do not consider, okay, when they are developing applications. We always say that, oh, we want to learn application development, we want to be a developer, this or that. Okay, but all this are part of the process of developing your application. In fact, these are critical processes to consider in designing an effective UI and UX when it comes to mobile application development. Okay. Now, there are three. We have the storytelling, we have the sketching, and then the wireframing. Okay. The storytelling is a process of crafting a narrative to communicate the app's purpose. Okay, so the journey and the value proposition. Now, it focuses or it helps to align the development teams, the stakeholders, the designers by focusing on the user needs, the emotions, and then the goal. Okay. So this is an entire teamwork, the development team. So the development team, so if maybe someone is handling the interface, someone is handling maybe the back end. Okay, the whole team come on board to follow a particular purpose for the app. Okay, then you also don't leave out the stakeholders. The stakeholders, they are very, very key when it comes to the application you want to develop. Okay, so it says that the storytelling helps to align the development team, stakeholders, the designers, okay, developing your application. Who are the stakeholders? The stakeholders are the people you are developing your application for. So if it is, let's say, for instance, if the exams we wrote, the project we did last semester, we want to now develop it as a mobile application, okay, who do you think will be the stakeholders for that? Anyone? From last semester's project, who will be the stakeholder? Or who will be the stakeholders? Yes, Baron.
Yeah, so the farming community we targeted, maybe if they have a leader or the people there, they can be the stakeholders.
They can be the stakeholders. Perfect. Okay, so you need to interact with them. And I see this a lot anytime we do student projects, especially end of SEM projects. And when it comes to chapter 1 and chapter 2 presentation, you will find out from students whether we've interacted with the stakeholders, the people they claim are their case study. They'll come and say, oh, we are developing the app. People are using a manual system and the manual system is blah, blah, blah. Okay. But for all you know, the people are satisfied with the manual system that they are using. Okay, they are satisfied with their manual system. So if you don't interact with the stakeholders, how do you know that whatever you want to develop will benefit them, or they even have the means to even use the application you are proposing? Okay, so these are things you should consider. So storytelling, the purpose of storytelling is to define the app's concepts and user scenarios, build empathy for the target audience, guide the design and functionality to solve user problems. Okay, now it also has a purpose. It also has a process, sorry. The process is to identify the user targets, what we call the persona. Okay, we need to look at the persona, which we'll talk about in a few moments. We'll look at some example. The persona. Okay, so you should also outline the goals, pinpoints, have some pain points, have some motivations, and also create the narrative that shows how the application solves their problem. Okay, so let's look at this example here. So this is a fitness app. So this fitness app, you are supposed to develop a fitness app. So the persona, okay, so the persona is you take maybe a person, a user target. Okay, identify a user target. So maybe you take one person. In the case of the farm application, maybe we take one farmer. Okay. Then in this context, it's a fitness app. So he said a 30-year-old working professional who wants to stay healthy but struggles to find time for exercise. Okay. So he described the persona. So this is more like the target. Someone is a working professional, okay, but it's finding it difficult to stay healthy. Okay. So that's the persona. Then what's the narrative? The narrative is that the person feels overwhelmed by a busy schedule. She downloads a fitness app, suggests a quick 10-minute workout tailored to fit to her fitness level. The app sends motivational reminders, tracks her progress, making her feel accomplished and encourage her to stay consistent. Okay, then we have also the impact. What's the impact? So this guides a developer to prioritize features like quick workout plans, push notifications, and progress tracking. Okay, so for every application you develop, there has to be a storytelling approach to it. And this is one way of doing that. Okay. Then we come with a visual description, that's a storytelling board. Might include a flow chart or a comic strip style diagram, okay, showing the persona's journey. So, sorry, made a mistake here. Okay, so a person is looking for, or the person is stressed at work, discovers the app, sees a quick workout options, completes a workout and ends a badge. Okay, so you are making it engaging. Okay, so discovers the app, sees a quick workout option, and then works out and earns a badge. So you are giving more of like a reward. Okay, something to encourage the person to keep using the app. Okay, so how do you do that? You use tools like PowerPoint to create your board. Okay, and often tools like illustrations and stock images to do that. So let me just, our time is up. I have to be starting another class. Next week, we'll continue and look at the storytelling and then the wireframing. Okay, and also we'll look at how to set up our environment for the application development. But before that, let me just show you a quick example of how the storytelling approach looks like. All right, I hope you can all see the screen.
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is a work we're doing on to manage what we call tasks. Okay, so you can design your storytelling approach like this. So this is how you do the persona. Okay, so the name of the person, what the person does in our context, the person is a professional worker. Okay, so the persona, the age of the person, where the person stays in marriage, the profession. Okay, they do something like this. Then the environment the person works with, the tools the person uses. Okay, give some description of the person, okay, person's motivation, and so on. The person's goal, okay, scenario. Okay, and if you go online, you see more of this, and this has to talk with the users, talk about the user's persona. Okay. The user's persona. So what we talked about, or what we just described in the slide. Okay. So that is how you do the visual description. Okay, you can do it in PowerPoint. Okay, and usually these are things you discuss with your stakeholders, show your stakeholders some of these things so that they can appreciate whatever you intend to do or to develop the application for. Okay, in fact, they are even selling to you the idea. Okay, cool. So you have to work with them in order to come up with what we call the storytelling, the persona. All right, so I'll end it here. Next week, we'll look at the sketching and then wireframing. Any questions so far? I'll take 1 or 2 questions, then we can end the class. Any question? All right, so I'd want you to read more on this, look out more online, search more, look out for examples of various apps and scenarios. Next week, after next week's class, I'll give you your first assignment, okay, which has to do with this. By that time, your groupings should also be ready. And then I'll give you your first assignment where you are supposed to come up with the storytelling, come up with a sketch, and then also come up with your the wireframe for the application you intend to build. And please, as much as possible, like I said at the point in the class, okay, make this tell yourself you want to learn something or gain something from this course. Okay. Those of you who are of the view that, oh, my contribution is that I did the documentation. No, that is not a contribution. Your contribution should be in line with whatever you have learned in the class, in this course. Okay, your contribution will not be, oh, I printed the document, I prepared the slides. No, your contribution will always be in line with whatever you've taught, because the class, the course objective has clearly been stated. Okay, so please let's take note of that. So make it a point. At least let me at the end of this course, let me at least develop some small applications, simple one. All right, I saw a hand from Joshua Dako. Let me just take your question and then we'll call it a day.
So I wanted to ask if it's a group work assignment or it's individual.
Oh, it's going to be group. It's going to be group. So the groupings will be out next week together with the assignment. But I'll only give the assignment after I've talked about the sketching and then the storytelling. And then we'll look at some examples on that. Yeah. Yes, Augustine.
Yeah, hello, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, please, I wanted to talk about the grouping that you said you are going to.
Okay,
You see,
go on.
some of us, we prefer working with within ourselves, but picking it randomly, it will affect us in some way, yeah, because of communication and some people interest in all those stuffs.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
I've heard you, but sometimes you find yourself in organization, you don't know anyone there, but you still have to work with the person. The person can be as annoying as whatever, but you have no option than to work with the person. Okay, so this is all building as I believe most of you are workers, so you know some of these things. Okay, so I will still do the grouping. It's for a purpose, one of which is to, based on your results from last sem, it will be easy to identify those who are good and those who are struggling, so that I can pair you in that fashion.
Okay,
Yes.
I get.
So it's not like a group will be full of people who are only good, and there's this other group that's are struggling. No, there will definitely be someone who is good. Okay, enough in that group to help the group.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, you're welcome. Fatih and Ananias, I have a class, so please keep your questions for next week. I'll plead with you. Okay. All right, so let's pray. Father, we thank you for a successful time. We ask that you see us through this semester. Even as we begin with you, we know that we'll end with you. And all will be to the glorification of your name. In Jesus' name, pray. Amen. Enjoy the rest of your week. God bless you.
Amen.
Have a good night.
Amen.
Good night. Thank you, sir. Good night.
Amen.